Mayor, we are live and recording, so whenever you'd like to begin.
Okay. Let me get my volume turned up here. All right, we'll call this work session to order. It's Wednesday, March 17th. Time is 1 p.m. I'll open it up for visitor comments. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand, go to participants all the way down, and it'll give you a little area to raise your hand.
See, I have a comment, but I don't know where to raise my hand. I forget.
Mayor,
All right, go ahead, Judy.
Thompson.
Okay. Okay, are you ready?
Yep.
Okay. Good afternoon, City Council and Mayor Scholl. My name is Judy Thompson, St. Helens resident. I would like to speak on behalf of our proposed public safety building. With respect and a big thank you to Matt Brown, Assistant City Manager, Administrator, City staff, Police Chief Greenway, and officers for all your time and commitment to this project and making many opportunities for citizens to learn about the proposal. The financial choices to make this happen are a bond or utility fees. Our family will be impacted by either choice. Our family is in total agreement. We need to retire the current decaying, dysfunctional, and unsafe police station and move forward with a new facility that will better serve our law enforcement, municipal services, have community meeting space, and serve as emergency disaster center. Plus, we must be better prepared for population growth. We are not overly enthusiastic about having an increase in property taxes or utility fees. However, the monthly fee will cost less than a bond that will increase our monthly mortgage payment. The bond falls on the shoulders of property owners, and the utility fee will include more people and business to help lower the direct monthly costs. As population and business growth happens, the potential of the monthly rate has the ability to decrease. Perhaps there could be a rate scale for small businesses to help reduce the financial impact to them. If I'm in a money pinch, I would much rather call and make arrangements with the city to pay my bill, as opposed to trying to make arrangements making my monthly mortgage payment. I understand there will be extra funds budgeted by the city in the current program that assists people with utility services. My concerns are that this is not a want for a new public safety facility. It is a need. We cannot continue to ignore and push this issue back any longer. It will only result in costing more. As time goes by, there will be other building and population growth issues that will require big financial attention. I'm asking our city councilors to hear and incorporate feedback from our community that will help council in making a decision that will be most equitable to proceed with the proposed public safety building. And I thank you.
Thank you, Judy Thompson.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other visitor comments?
Mayor, I do have a letter from the St. Helens Police Association that was requested to be read.
Okay.
I write this to St. Helens City Council. I write this letter on behalf of the St. Helens Police Association. We have long appreciated the outstanding relationship that we have with the council. We pride ourselves on our flexibility and adaptability. We want to make our stance on our current deplorable police department facilities known. Our goals have always been the same: to keep people safe, help civilians, and connect with our community. Those goals have become exceedingly difficult to meet with our current working conditions. Our current building is unsafe, unsanitary, and unfit for the job of police work. Our agency does not have the ability to become accredited due to some of the many subpar and outdated elements of the building. In fact, our building does not even meet Americans with Disabilities Act requirements, which unfortunately makes our police department look indifferent to many of our most vulnerable residents. Currently, a citizen with a physical disability may not be able to physically enter our facility to provide a statement. St. Helens Police Department personnel want our facility to be accessible and welcoming to all of our citizens. Additionally, due to the lack of space in the building, victims of a crime must use the same and only interview room that our suspects use. This room is cramped, sterile, and does not put a victim at ease. Instead of offering them a safe and comfortable place to disclose their story to officers, they must sit in a tiny room that makes them feel as if they themselves are the suspect. The door to this room is not soundproof and faces directly onto our main office hallway where people often pass by. This is not acceptable. Our current building does not provide us with the opportunity to properly test dangerous drugs for our officers to for our officers to decontaminate. We do not have a gender-specific locker rooms allowing for necessary privacy. We do not have nearly enough workspace, not to mention room to social distance during the COVID-19 pandemic. While we are on duty, we do not have a secure area to store our personal vehicles or all our patrol vehicles. Our office does not have the proper IT infrastructure to easily investigate cases with large digital evidence files. There is no briefing room area for the officers to discuss their shift and cases that does not double, triple, or quadruple as space for another use. This is inefficient and leads to frequent interruptions. We have no dedicated training space so that the officers can take classroom and reality-based training to improve themselves professionally. In today's current national movement calling for police reform, this deficiency seems particularly egregious. How can our officers improve, evolve, and grow to be the best in their profession if they are not given the training space and the tools necessary to practice and learn? While we have high hopes for improved working conditions, I do not think what we are asking for is unrealistic or unreasonable. Our hope is to have a building that does not put citizens at risk, a building that allows for victims to feel safe and comfortable, a building that has the ability to host community events for our officers to better connect with the people they serve. Without a doubt, the people that reap the most benefit from an updated facility would be the citizens themselves. The primary reason that we support an updated facility is because we want to deliver the most professional police service as possible to our citizens. While the community is our top priority, improved working conditions would also be immensely appreciated by our officers, many of whom live in the city. Improved conditions would undoubtedly help the recruitment, retention, and longevity for officers. It would allow for officers to once again take pride in the building that they spend much of their time working out of. We support the recommendations made to the City Council by the Public Safety Ad Hoc Committee. This group, made up of St. Helens community members, recognized that it is past time for a new facility and urged the council to create a fund to secure the money needed for construction. We ask the council to take their recommendations seriously and approve the Public Safety Fund. We write this letter to ask the City Council, what is your plan? What will you do if you choose to send the funding to a vote and that does not pass? Myself and all of our members eagerly look forward to further discussions and finding out how we can improve our working conditions. We are anxiously awaiting the council's guidance to find out how we can assist the city in making an updated professional working environment a reality for our officers. We fully realize what kind of investment we are asking of the council, so we do not take this matter lightly. That being said, we are comfortable making this request as we think the community is worth that kind of an investment. On behalf of the St. Helens Police Association, I want to thank all of you for your time and consideration. Dylan Gaston, President of the St. Helens Police Association.
All right, thank you, Matt. Well, being how we're on the police safety, I have received a letter from the Columbia County Republicans. It says, Dear Mayor Scholl, a majority of our executive committee recently attended a presentation by Police Chief Greenway and Matt Brown regarding a new police station, public safety facility, and we agree that the current police station is grossly inadequate and outdated. We believe that providing public safety is one of the primary functions of government and that our law enforcement officers should be provided the resources they need to assure safety of citizens, persons, homes, businesses, and other properties. After deliberation and a unanimous vote of our executive committee, we support the formation of a public safety fund by the City of St. Helens Council for the sole purpose of the building a new facility as presented. We also encourage you to form a robust citizen oversight committee to help assure the funds are used prudent and solely for the intended purpose. We also encourage you to seek the most cost-effective method of funding for this facility to pay off any debt incurred for the construction early. Should a windfall of public safety grants be secured by the City of St. Helens,
Thank you.
I hope I said your name right.
No, close. It's Karmar song.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you over there and all your hard work and your efforts. And I just want to congratulate you on 5 years with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, and then our second one is Roger Stafford. Began working for the City of St. Helens on March 14, 2016 as the city's building maintenance utility worker, where he serves today. And Roger has been one of those type of guys who is just utilized everywhere throughout the city. His knowledge in construction has proved to be very helpful in a lot of our projects. And we congratulate him on his 5 years. And I do not see him here. He's probably out working. So again, I will be signing you a certificate and thanking you. Thank you again, Michelle. Margaret, would you like to say a few words? Just, I see you're here. Might as well let you chime in a little bit, or maybe I caught you unprepared. I don't know.
No, I'm not unprepared. I'm just technologically blocked. I'm here now. I am just delighted to have Michelle on our staff. I wrote a little blurb for social media, so I won't say all the wonderful things I said there again. I do want to add that as our safety committee representative, Michelle has just done an exemplary job this year, staying abreast of all the communications that have come out through the CDC and OHA and public health locally, as well as all the advice that comes through the State Library and the American Library Association about how to handle library materials during the pandemic. So she has really stepped up in that role and really served us well beyond her normal responsibilities as the secretary for the safety committee. So that's another facet of her contribution to the library and the city. And you can read more about her in social media today. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Margaret.
Certainly.
Okay. So again, we thank you both for your efforts and your, we definitely appreciate you. All right, on to our next item on the agenda is to present a plaque to Greg Kohan. And it is my honor to actually be holding that plaque right now. Greg Kohan served on the Planning Commission for 18 years. Look at that nice plaque right here. I can only imagine I'll give him a minute to speak here in just a second, but over the 18 years, what he has seen the changes in the city of St. Helens have been. So it's a huge commitment. Planning commission meetings can sometimes go till very late in the evening, and a lot to consider in all aspects of planning. So Greg, congratulations. I will be actually presenting you probably this award in person. I'll get your contact info and be in contact with you. Would you like to share a few words, Greg?
I'd just like to say that I appreciate the opportunity to serve the citizens of the city for these many years on the Planning Commission. It's been a real honor and a privilege. Sure have seen a lot of changes.
Yes, you have, and you've been through a lot of the pre-planning with the future developments too. So
I'll be looking forward to seeing that as it continues to develop into reality.
Yes, it's happening, so it's a good thing. All right, Greg. Hey, I will. I think we still have your contact info, so I'll be getting a hold of you probably maybe even this afternoon, Greg, if you're around.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Greg. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Always feels good to present those. Okay, our next item on the agenda is the Senior Center Semi-Annual Report. Kathy, I always mess up your last name.
It's Innocenti.
Yes, I said it right.
You did.
Yep.
Well, good
Hi,
afternoon,
Kathy.
Mayor Schloll and councilors. Before I give my report, I wanted to say that I have called on Roger many, many times, and he is so responsive. He's calm, and he just gets the job done. So I just really appreciate all of his work in the Public Works Department.
Thank you.
So we're doing pretty well at the Senior Center and at the thrift store. Our financials are pretty solid right now. Since my last report, we've obtained about $153,000 through 12 different sources. So I just apply for any grants that come along to keep our programs running here. We do have some big expenses coming up. The mechanic for our store delivery truck has said that we need to be on the lookout for another one because it's broken down enough that the repairs are going to become more expensive as time goes by. So we've got our eyes peeled for something else. We had to replace our copier printer that we could no longer get replacement parts for. So that was a chunk of change. And then one of our commercial freezers, Stan said it's beyond repair and others are breaking down. So the board voted to have a walk-in freezer and cooler combination installed. We do have some funds set aside for that project, but we will be doing a fundraiser in April for more money to go towards that. In our meal program, last fiscal year, I reported that we prepared and served nearly 50,000 meals in St. Helens and Scappoose. So at mid-year so far, this fiscal year, we're at 51%. So we're on track for another 50,000 meals or a little bit more. Fortunately, we have received a lot of this funding, and so we're doing well with being able to provide those meals. We did have a positive COVID case for an employee that worked at both the center and at the thrift store. So we had substitute kitchen workers from Community Action Team come in and help us out, and we closed the store for 2 weeks. Fortunately, there were no other cases. The person worked behind the scenes, so they weren't in contact with customers. And so we were kind of one and done there on the quarantine, thank goodness. The center has been closed, except for preparing and delivering the meals. And currently we have AARP here doing tax preparation through April 15th. But otherwise, we don't have any activities going on. During the holidays, we did have a drive-through holiday dinner. It wasn't a fundraiser. It was sponsored by Schultz Financial, and we just gave out meals to our regulars who usually come into the center. So that was a nice thing to be able to see them and have them, give them something to do during that time. Our board has changed a little bit. We had a death and a resignation, and so we've had a couple other board members come on board. All of our exterior doors were keyed to be the same, so now we have one key instead of one for each door, so thank you very much for that. The next thing we're doing, we're setting up the ability to take credit cards for donations and meal cards. And the next step, once we get that set up here in the next week or so, we'll also be adding that option to our website, which is something I've wanted to do for a while, but didn't know how. So this company that we have been using at Top Notch for a long time is going to help us set that up. The store's open 3 days a week. Our sales have been good. Donations have been coming in. But we will wait a few more months to open fully until after more people have been vaccinated and some of our other volunteers feel comfortable coming back. So that's what I have that's happening at the center.
Let me unmute myself. Sounds like a lot going on. So you guys are still on track to do the 50,000 meals. That's pretty impressive.
It's a lot, but you know, everybody is very appreciative of it. We just continue to add people. Some people have gone off, but I think we'll be just a little over 50,000 again this year.
So you guys were able to get some of the COVID relief and utilize some of that for your meals on program, right?
Yes, and we also received a second PPP forgivable loan. So that has helped out a lot to pay for salaries and some other utilities and things like that.
Excellent.
Plus, we have received some of the other emergency grants.
All right. Any questions for Kathy, counselors? I don't see any. I'm looking.
Kathy, good having you over there. A good report. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, Kathy, thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
All right. You have a good day.
You too.
All right. Okay. So on to our next item, which is Public Works Department semi-annual report. Mohammed.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Councilor. It's good to be here today. I'll take a moment and acknowledge Mr. Roger. Congratulations to him as well. I've been here for 4 months so far, almost 5, and I can tell you, if I would sum my opinion of Roger, would be simply one of a kind. I had the chance to work with him a little bit here in our remodeling building, and he is a gentleman. He is one of those people who was the hardest working person in the room, and he takes his job with a lot of pride, and he does an excellent work, which I think he's a role model for everybody in public works that we have. So thank you, Roger, and congratulations. With that said, I would like to present to you the Public Works Semi-Annual report this day. I thought it would be a good idea to, for our new counselor, Council Chilton and Councilor Berkeley, just to give you a quick idea and background about our Public Works mission and organizational chart. Our mission here is to provide a world-class service to our community and citizens through an action-oriented team that provides essential services to our citizens through an efficient, prompt, and effective work. In this slide over here, you see our organizational chart. I can say I'm a little proud that we beat Chief Greenway in our size, just with a couple people. We have 5 different divisions: the engineering department, parks and recreation, wastewater treatment, water filtration, and public works operations. Among our divisions in public work, we have so many activities and projects that usually we are going through simultaneously. And I tried to kind of figure a way to sum those up for you in kind of 3 categories. So we have the operation aspect of our public works. We have events, which are planned and unplanned. And we have projects, such as capital improvement projects across all divisions. And the operational, which is the daily activities as we have across all our divisions here, are including the daily activities like maintaining our streets, trees, sidewalks, sewer lines, water systems, permit processing, engineering plan, and such. In the events, we'll talk about our public works work with a lot of our citizens and departments and customers internally and externally. For example, when we have some specific events like the Halloween nights and Christmas lights, there is a lot of prep work that our team are responsible for in coordination with our tourism and parks and etc. And then we also have events that we can never plan for, such as the recent snowstorm that we had. And our public works is basically available on 24/7 basis and able to respond to such events. And I can tell you, the team have done a fantastic job keeping our city safe and operational throughout these storms. And last but not least, we have projects that we work on, again, across all divisions. Capital improvement, internal and external project varies in value from 5,000 to all the way in the millions. Some projects I'll talk about a little bit in details here, just like the SCADA system upgrade for the water filtration, McCormick Park equipment, and our big project on First Street utility extension. To give you also just an oversight of our operational piece and what our public works maintain through the numbers, we are responsible for an estimated 98 miles of roadways to maintain on regular and daily basis, 85 miles of water mains, 60 miles of sanitary sewer systems. We have 9 pump stations. And as you look at these numbers, those are require 24/7 attention because we get various calls on regular basis from citizens, systems, projects, and so forth. And we continue to invest into bringing our infrastructure to be state-of-the-art here at the city. The next few slides, I tried to really align our capital improvement projects towards the strategic work plan the City Council approved. We had 3 goals to achieve, and we continue to work really hard with these projects to kind of move them forward in alignment with the strategic work plan. Our engineering department currently are working on an internal design for ADA curb ramp improvements. We have an internal design team in our engineering with the leadership of Sue, Sharon, and Tim, working on the construction of 8 ADA ramps around the city. This work will include new concrete ramps, the installation of tourniqueted domes, relocation of some water, sewer, and storm drains, laterals, and some repairs of asphalts and pavement. And I can say we're proud that we are designing this project internally through our talented team here, not using any vendors on the outside, potentially a little bit of advice, and that's pretty much it. Some of the projects that we have already completed, which are aligned towards the livable and safe community projects, we have the North Vernonia sidewalk, which is slated to be finished in March 31st of this year. Very exciting project that has been ongoing for at least 8 months. We have completed the water main replacement on North 7th, 9th, and 11th Street. We also have completed a grant-funded projects on 1st and 5th Street and trail improvement. And lastly, another project that was jointly with the Columbia County was on Gable Road improvements. So great work, and again, working towards achieving these goals from the City Council on the work plan. Some of the projects that we have ongoing now on the economical development goal is digitizing our aerial imaging. This project is currently in the development stage. We are ongoing working on the industrial park development plan in coordination with our administration and planning team. This also has been approved by the City Council and adopted already. And finally, the Riverfront District Development Plan, which we have two major projects that are going on simultaneously now on First Street and the Riverwalk. This is an exciting project on our capital improvement plan that started back in September of last year. We are implementing a brand new equipment, which will replace the existing equipment structures in McCormick Park. This project is very exciting. In fact, we have already removed our old equipment and surplus dues, and we are in the process of installing the new one, hopefully by the end of March, according to the project schedule. In this picture here, you see the picture basically of the new equipment, and I thought it would be nice. Thank you, Tina, by the way, for supplying me and the parks with some new pictures of the actual site. If you look on the right here, you have a picture of our old equipment, which have been approved for surplus and donated locally to the community. On the bottom left, you'll see the site now. Our parks team and Public Works have done an excellent job removing and preparing the sites to welcome our new equipment. There was a great cost saving here just by leveraging our talented team from Public Works. And on the top left, you'll see also another picture, aerial picture of the new equipment that will be installed very soon. Again, this project has a major impact positively on the city, and the community will truly appreciate these efforts. And the overall final project close date should be in August of this year. We have some other capital improvement projects that we're working on. I thought I'll introduce some of what we work in different divisions. For example, in the wastewater treatment plant, we have a pump station number 3, which is located on 110th South 4th Avenue. The scope of this particular project is replacing the hydro ranger and transducer for an electrical conduit. I've initiated this project in February of this year, working with our supervisor over at the wastewater treatment. We have an end date planned for August of this year, for summer. Some of the progress we have made already on this particular project. We've ordered the parts for the hydro ranger that has been completed. We've worked on locating all the services needed for the site, which has been completed as well. We're also going to be leveraging our internal talent and workforce here from Public Works for some cutting in the concrete and asphalt that is located in this particular project. And lastly, we will work with a vendor who's specialist in electrical circuits, who's going to help us to implement the new electrical conduit. Another major project and the capital improvement project we've been working on is a SCADA system upgrade for the water filtration. I mentioned that a little earlier in the project we're working on. The scope of this particular project is to replace an outdated hardware, software, and ancillary equipment of the water filtration. Water filtration is one of those unique divisions that we have that provide a clean, safe water for our citizens. And from the day I arrived here at the city, I wanted to invest in our personal infrastructure in order to keep continuing providing these services and our mission, which providing a world-class service for our citizens. We started this project back in October of last year. We are slated to be completed in this year in summer, also around August. We have about 25% completion now. The contractor has already been selected. The equipment have been ordered and it's en route. And the next steps we are working on this particular project is installing the new hardware and software and the programming, which will be done by the contractor, followed by training for our staff in the facility. Some of the long range planning of master plans that we're working on, which is aligned with the goal number 5 from our strategic plan, working simultaneously on 2 and actually 3 master plans at the same time. The stormwater and sanitary sewer system master plans, and I've also initiated a brand new one this year, which is the water system master plans. And just to talk a little further on those, the scope of work of the first one, which is the stormwater and sanitary sewer master plan. We are working on identifying existing capacity issues within our infrastructure necessary to deliver the best service for our future customers and adjust for our urban growth boundaries. This project started prior to me coming here in June of last year, which is slated to be complete in December of this year. We are currently at 35% completion, and the project is in the development phase still. Most recently, we got a little curveball. We were presented by DEQ with a new requirement for our stormwater system. The city was designated as manager as a city St. Helens, where we have to come up with a mercury discharge TMDL plan to incorporate into this particular project and basically adjust and make sure we follow all these requirements. So we are in the process of incorporating that into the scope of work now. On the water system master plan, we are looking to identify opportunities and recommendations for our facility improvements. We started this project, as I mentioned, in January of this year. We are projected to be completely 100% done around March of next year. Currently, we are at 6% completion rate. We are still in the design phase. However, we have submitted the final draft for the RFP, which was completed and advertised on March 10th of this year. And we've already received some good inquiries from potential vendors that is going to help us in the consultation of building our water system master plan. So that's another exciting one that I'm really personally taking over. And last but not least, we have the South First Street and Strand Street Extension Project, which is one of our crown jewels here at the city. This project will focus on the improvement that will provide a multimodal connectivity to our community in conjunction with the Riverfront projects to improve the historic downtown existing trail connections. Also will support the revitalization of the Columbia View Park area and community gathering spaces. We have recently adopted the service contract in our last council session, which was exciting. We signed the contract with our vendor, which is OTEC. And just to give you an idea on the project timeline and where we are today, this project officially kicked off in March of this month. We are working with the vendor now to start our survey work, and topographic survey and geotechnical investigation is in progress. We have adopted 8 weeks for this particular project. The next phase after that will be the alignment and alternative with the concept plan of this utility project, which is a critical phase where we're going to involve a lot of stakeholders in those options that we're going to have. And followed by a 30% preliminary design. And once we hit that, we'll have a good idea to move forward with our continuation for a final design at 90%, which will take roughly 18 weeks. Once that is completed, we're going to jump into the permitting phase, which is slated for 8 weeks, and that will conclude the year, pretty much the December timeframe. And from that point, once that's approved and completed, we'll move into bidding and construction. So this was one of the biggest kind of projects now, top priority, along with the Riverwalk, and we're working closely with our, again, administration, Mr. Walsh and Jenny Demshow, working on the other project. So it's a very exciting time for the city. We have tons of other projects that we're working on simultaneously. This is kind of where we are. I'm bringing a project management approach to a lot of these projects. We're getting all our team to be able to manage these projects kind of simultaneously on top of our operationals and normal duty at Public Works. With that said, I think that's complete my my presentation for the day. I want to thank everybody in our team across all divisions who are talented, and they take pride in their work, and they do such a great job with the city. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Mayor Scholl, I have
Go ahead,
one.
Councilor Berkeley.
So this goes back to the wastewater treatment.
Who is it? Do you guys have someone in Public Works that's designated to do grants? And do you have someone who's designated in your department to do community outreach about projects?
Yes, we do. We have an actually, Council Chilton, is that the question for me?
Yes.
Yes, we do have a communication team over here. Crystal King or Farm
Okay.
Source, my apology. She is the communication individual that we work closely a lot with her and her team and putting a lot of press releases. Most recently, we had the engineering weeks where we had a lot of press releases on our site and social media that acknowledge the kind of work engineering department does. Proudly saying that we have Employee of the Year here, Sharon Darrow, who won the Employee of the Year from our engineering department award. And so, yeah, we do have not an internal just for public works, but we do have a communication team that help us putting a lot of those press releases.
Okay,
As
so
for
it's
the
just a
grant-
general communications team for the city though, not someone from Public Works directly. Okay.
Correct, yes, not from public works.
And is that the same for grants then for your department?
So the grants, we don't have a grant specialist that basically public works. It's kind of team effort. Whoever has the skill set at the point of need for a grant, we work together as a team to get that up and running. But we do not have a specialized grant writer within public works.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Council Berkeley, go ahead.
Sure, thanks. Back on the wastewater treatment plant, what is a hydro ranger and transducer?
Good question. That's a technical question. I think I wish we had Mr. Guy Davis to explain further. However, those are more of the technical terms that are used into the filtration. I personally do not have a good idea. However, I can get you an answer and send it to you in an email with all the details you'd like, Mr. Berkeley.
Sure, thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah,
It's
but
a
good.
technical term for it's a technical term that's used for certain equipment that are used in the filtration.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, and good report. You're right. Some great stuff going on, and great employees doing that work. Thanks.
You are very welcome. Yeah, we have a lot of more projects that I would love to introduce as well, but just to be mindful of the time, I figured I'll give you a good sample of what we do and how kind of we are approaching projects.
We appreciate that, Mohammed. I just have one more.
Mohammed,
I thought I heard another question.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think. I
yeah,
thought Doug was-
Mohammed, I have,
Yes, sir.
but I think Mayor Scholl wants to talk.
Oh, go ahead, Doug.
Recently, I've had, what's that?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Since we talked, that's what I'm doing. Since we talked recently, Mohammed, I had two calls regarding the reservoir leaks. And can you update our citizen, good idea of where everything is, but can you update our citizens of where we're at with the issue of one of the reservoirs leaking? And that's been an ongoing process for the last 6 years, I believe.
Correct, yes. And where we are in this particular project, so I have established a metric here internally in Public Works with our department on projects, and we kind of align them in 3 different colors, right? Red, green, and yellow. Anything in green is a great progress. Yellow kind of is midway, potential roadblocks, and red means it's problematic and we have major problems. So the reservoir project is on the red since I got here, and I took some initiative on this particular project. I researched the issues. I looked at all the historical data available for this particular one, and we realized we have a problem with the vendor who worked on this project. Currently, we are taking a lot of steps forward to mitigate these issues by taking actually legal action to battle this particular vendor who did not do a good job, and in fact did a terrible job in my opinion when they did not deliver what they were supposed to and agreed to in the contract. So we had gathered some great information and great financial numbers on the efforts that we've spent on this project, and where we are today is the next step. We met with our legal team. We have drafted all the documentation needed. and all the historical conversations to support our case. And we are going with an official action legally towards the vendor to bring back the project on surface and improve or recoup the money that we paid. So depending on the outcome of our next meeting, which is happening very soon with our legal team, we'll have a better, clear path forward on what to do. But we are in full force to take back our project and fix our reservoir or recoup that money so we can reinvest it into a brand new tank or fix the current existing one.
All right, thank you, Mohammed. Hey, the only question I have is not McCormick Park, Campbell Park project. Who did we award that to? It was because we tried putting it out for bid and it wasn't taken, so we had the opportunity to go shop around. Have we found a contractor yet for Campbell Park?
Campbell Park, let me check. Is Sue on the line? I know we talked about it last week. If Sue is here, she can step in. If she's not, Mr. Mayor, I can get you the most up to date on that particular project.
But it's, yeah, Sue's here.
I'm here.
Sue, hey Sue. Thank you for coming. We have a question from our mayor about the Campbell Park. Have we had the chance to award that? Can you just give us a quick update on where we are with that particular project?
Yeah, it has not been awarded yet. We are negotiating with contractors on that at this time. We also are working with trying to resolve some unstable soil issues. So until that's fully resolved, we don't have a clear path forward as far as the actual pad construction. So we're still working with two different contractors.
Yeah, and there was a lot of different variations to that project is why it was difficult, right?
Yes, there was, and
that's what I thought.
And just the existing material that is there is very unstable, and so we can't physically go and do any work in there right this time of year.
Okay, that's all I was wondering.
It's moving forward though.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could address Councilor Chilton's question, because I think it was a good one, is about communications, the city's communication strategy and department level versus having a centralized communication. And for a number of years, we did have a pretty decentralized communication. We've moved that towards a center focus point, with Crystal being that point of contact so that she can meter it out, have the message have a uniform tone and quality and consistency to it. And it's really been a pretty successful strategy, especially as we get into the realm of social media and all the different platforms that are out there that we're dabbling in. The grant piece of it is a little bit more complicated. It's not as centralized, but I would say that programs like the library have some kind of niche grants that they go after pretty regularly. Most of the grants that are community development grants tend to have a public works angle to them at some point. So they may start off as a community development grant and the two departments working together, like this, funding for the Riverwalk. For instance, those grants were all initiated, between Rachel Berry doing the government affairs, Jenny Dimshow out searching for funding everywhere we can find it, and other opportunities and announcements we run across and work with people to look for funding. And we've been really successful with it. Projects like the food bank, Gable Road was a long project with a lot of funding. With that community development block grant, and both Campbell Park and McCormick Park, and just so many others. There's, I think, we tallied about $10 million over the last 10 years, something like that, of just outside money coming in through our efforts of obtaining grants. It may not look department level coordinated, but there is some coordination going on between departments and their needs and trying to get them funded. Because we're all about finding outside money to get things done.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. Yeah, my train was just thinking about grants, and I was curious because we've been awarded so many, if we had someone designated to do that for the whole city, or if it was department, split up by department. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so any other questions for Mohammed before I let him go? All right, good job, Mohammed. There's a
Thank
lot to
you.
report on, and I know you got a lot more going on than that, so.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll go to our next item on the agenda, which is review proposed bench donation on River Street. So this is, must be another organization wanting to donate another bench. Council President Morton, are you familiar with this one?
Well, yeah, that would be the Lions Club and probably Kathy Surstadt. And the whole issue was exactly where that would go. And if the council wanted to approve that, and I would imagine that there were some plans submitted, no plans submitted, is that correct?
Yeah, there was plans submitted. It was in your
Am I correct
packet.
in assuming that there were there?
I think we might have lost Doug.
Your plans, Doug.
They were in your packet.
Okay, I didn't get them.
I could share my screen.
Please do, Kathy.
I've got it, Kathy.
Okay.
Did you want to see the actual application?
No, I'm good. I just want to see the placements here. So it looks like it's up on the cliff just above, right? What it looks like.
Yep.
Yes.
And there is already a bench that Claire Jensen has up there. I think that's her house right there, right about where that is. But I'm sure she wouldn't mind a nicer bench up there. Yeah, it looks good.
So she's going to place two benches either at the orange star or the blue star. So she wanted to know which star you wanted to place them at.
Well, I think the trail comes up closer to the second choice.
Did you say there was 2 benches? Could we put one at each star?
Well, they have to have a pad, a concrete pad placed below them. So that's probably why they were going to put 2 in one area.
The idea was no COVID, but the idea was is that it could help rather than just 2 people sitting on a bench, that there might be 2 couples that might want to converse. That came up with one being kind of slanted, almost like in a V formation, but not quite as sharp as that. That was the.
Doug, you are breaking up
and
really,
that
really
came to
bad.
the. Okay, thank
No,
you.
I just letting you know your internet. I don't know if anybody, maybe it's my internet. Is anybody else hearing that?
No, it's cut up. We can't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just trying to be polite and let him know.
Mr. Mayor, there's a big drop off in front of both of those benches. Was there a pleasant safety fence between the benches and the drop off?
It would be ideal to have one up there. Have our public works guy take a look at it. See how hard it would be.
And of course, the choice one is a good view with the 4 Ps, and choice 2 is a good view of north of the island.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, a lot better. A lot better.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks. Well, the Parks Commission heard this and they overwhelmingly wanted to go to council. They made a recommendation. I believe we had talked about this before, and I believe Kathy came to the council to talk about it. And so we said yes. And so this is, she came back with these 2 options of where to put 2 benches. So I just have to go with her first choice. She's the one who's ascertaining all of these benches, and there's going to be a variety of them as we move forward. She almost has an unlimited supply through the Lions Club. So to me, I would honor her first choice, put 2 benches there. And the suggestion was to put them at a slight angle. So if there was 4 or 5 people sitting down and conversing or chatting, they could converse with one another. And that was the same kind of thing they talked about down at Great Cliffs Waterfront Park as well. With if there's a cluster of benches, it becomes a bit more communal. That was the talk. Now, the caveat on all of this is that that is not in a park. That's on Public Works right away, I believe. So there's the Parks Commission just heard it because it's in close proximity to a park, and that's basically why they heard, and that's why Kathy went to the Parks Commission. So it's a council kind of issue, and I would just suggest putting the 2 benches on the first choice placement.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Doug, or Councilor Morgan.
You know, it just hits, you know what? It kind of cuts through the mustard, and okay, let's get it done. That's my feeling.
All right.
Do we have to go through Jacob to get any rulings on this city property placement, or is it up just to us?
It's up to us, and let's do it.
Oh, no, problem's not doing it. I just wonder if we have any other T's to cross.
They already checked.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Sounds like you have direction to move forward with number 1, if she so chooses. We appreciate the Lions Club for all they do. They're out also putting up the flags every memorial,
right?
Every holiday. So,
do you want a motion on that, Mayor, or you want to motion it as an action item and just?
Yeah, we'll kick it up to tonight and make it a motion. Yeah, we can
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Yep. Okay, so next item on our agenda is review concept design for Sand Island Campground picnic shelter and cabins, John and Jenny.
Great. John, you're muted. So I can kick this off.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's all right, John?
Yeah, please.
So we received an application from Brad, actually Lower Columbia representing Brad, the St. Helens Marina. As you know, we have a lease agreement with them to operate some campsites on Sand Island. And what they'd like to do is install 2 picnic shelters, which are identified here and here on this map, and 6 cabins, which are all kind of clustered around one of the northern picnic shelters. And so with all land use applications, you know, the property owner is required to sign off that they approve the concept. And so we own Sand Island. And so we're here asking for council's blessing to entertain this application. There are some other technical details that they'll have to work out about ensuring that the location is on the city-owned portion and not the DSL portion of the island. And then there's also some technical details to work out about floodplain. So those will be worked out through the land use process. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
I-
I have a concern.
Go ahead.
You want to hear it? Okay. And John, you can, I'm going to rely on you to think about what the, just kind of refresh what the agreement was with buildings or structures that were erected by Mr. Henderson, who oversees that lease. Does the city then assume that property development or the buildings when the lease is sunsetted? What's the issue on that? Or do they get torn down if Brad goes away and something happens with the lease? That's my question.
Yeah, I was going to add that to the secondary part of the report. Is there's the issue of the lease agreement with Sand Island Campground, and that lease agreement requires that any structures come to the city for approval, and that's largely because as the lease terminates, and it automatically renews unless it's terminated, but at any point that the city wants to terminate the lease, there's an appraisal of those improvements, and those improvements, the city would have to purchase those back from the campground. Now, this is something we're also in a parallel effort working with Travel Oregon right now on a funding effort. They just released a bunch of funding and this is the perfect kind of project for that. So we feel like it's a highly competitive project. So it is possible that we could bring a lot of public money to this project to offset some of those costs. And I've had conversations with them about that we would essentially discount the improvements by the grant amount. So yeah, that's the short of it. There's 6 cabins, 2 picnic shelters. They're likely to be very, very popular on the island there, especially in the summertime. And, a good amenity for the boaters as well. The picnic shelters.
And then that could be offset as soon as that lease is terminated. Is that correct?
That was the thinking. If we're successful in obtaining funds, that would.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Councilor Topaz?
Isn't the island always a floodplain? And what are the rules? We've seen the water go over the top of that. Are there just different rules for islands and floodplains for building?
So yeah, Jacob, if you want to chime in.
Yeah, I can speak to that, Councilor Topaz. That was one of our concerns when we first saw this, and there was some different locations on there, and we worked with Lower Columbia. They went out and shot some heights to ensure that the buildings will be outside of the floodplain, at least based on the floodplain mapping that we have. That's what we have to go with, and these locations were selected because of their elevations. So the entire island isn't necessarily in the floodplain. There are portions above, at least what the federal government tells us is the flood level, the 100-year flood level.
Oh, so we're talking about legal water height, not what the river does. I was hoping that since it was on an island in a floodplain, we could consider them disposable buildings and not have to worry about the floodplain standard rules.
I don't think we have to worry about it at all. I don't think it's any any worry if Mr. Henderson is putting the bill to put these up and he's carrying the insurance on this, it's kind of out of our worry, I would imagine. I mean, that's his deal. I'm not going to worry about everything that he does over there.
I was worried whether he'd be allowed to do it. As I say, I could easily see disposable buildings. The value that people are going to use them, they're not going to be there 100 years. They're going to be used to death during the summers.
Exactly.
So that was the question. Do we have other problems with the law and floodplains and the river?
And those should be avoided based on this proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes, I had two. Looks like on the last page where it has all the different notes, general notes, framing notes, and there's electrical notes. Are these going to be set up for electricity? And because we don't have electricity out there, right? And anyway, so
That's right. No, I actually was looking through those notes today in preparation for this, and I noted that they talk about kitchens, tubs, and bathrooms. And then I look at the floor plan, and there is no kitchen, tub, or bathroom proposed because there is no water to the island. Right. So, no, I don't know the specifics of their electrical plans, but I think Lower Columbia often puts generalized construction notes at the end of their plans that may not apply to the actual construction documents. They will be required to get building permits. And so at that time, these plans will be more refined to the building. At this point, they're just conceptual.
Oh, okay, thanks.
They talked about putting solar out there and developing solar on the roofs of these buildings to create some energy and store it in batteries and things.
Which makes sense.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I was wondering if that might be something, or if they were planning on having a generator out there, and I couldn't imagine like a generator would be compatible with quiet and solitude on the island. Okay. The second was on the first page on the map. There are the little captions attached to where the picnic shelter and the cabins are going to be, and the end of each one says something about that the proposed cabin, the proposed picnic shelter located 70-foot minimum from vegetation line. And I wasn't quite sure what that referred to, because it looks like there's all kinds of vegetation, and how are you going to have it 70 feet from a vegetation line? So I was just wondering what that meant exactly.
It's my understanding, and this might be the incorrect interpretation, they're talking about from the edge of where vegetation stops. And I think the reason they've noted it like that is because they're trying to keep it on the city-owned portion of property.
Okay.
So I think you may have just been misinterpreting. They don't mean 70 feet from all vegetation.
Okay, so if we're looking at it on the east side, where the green begins, then at least 70 feet away from that, and then it gets us over the DSL line.
Yes, that's right. What I think that note is referring to.
Okay, thank you.
It's kind of an arbitrary comment, really.
Yeah.
So
on the plans.
I wanted to comment about, I've actually been out on the island and camped there, so it's really nice and it's coming along really nicely. I am a little concerned about starting this right now because I feel like we haven't really given it enough time. It's still a new thing. And I would like to maybe see some more conservative approach to like looking at numbers and making sure that it's profitable and that we have good marketing out there, and that just kind of takes a little bit of time for the cabins. But I do believe that it is something that would be really enjoyable down the line. And I would also like to hear more about the funding for it and just like how we would go about paying for it and doing it. I know John did bring up the grant, so I would be interested to hear more about funding around it.
The campground is paying for this totally out of their pocket. is their proposal. There's no city funds in this, but because there's a grant opportunity out there, we're looking at this saying, hey, this is something that might be really valuable to and they would be an eligible applicant actually to do that. And but it was just a good fit to put those two together and kind of reduce their cost. And
And the reason it would fit is because of Travel Oregon recognizes that people are traveling as a destination from other areas to come camp on Sand Island. I actually met somebody from California who was meeting somebody from Seattle, and they were camping on the island together. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty good opportunity. So it would be nice to hear more about it.
As far as the business plan for the campground, they're modeling after Stub Stewart State Park and Fort Stevens and other ones that are essentially 100% full occupancy. I mean, they're very, very full, and there's high demand. And, yeah, camping is red hot right now, especially with the COVID. People staying.
Yeah, I camped there on 4th of July and it was packed. So it's a nice island.
Okay, any other questions on this? I like the design. I don't know if it requires an action item from us to approve.
You're not approving the proposal, but you're signing off as the property owner that we will entertain the land use application. So I do need action on this.
Yeah,
I see no problem of signing off, Mayor.
Yeah, so we'll put it on tonight, Jenny. Okay, kick it up for tonight. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Okay, now discussion regarding covenant to bind property for North 7th Street Affordable Housing Project. Jacob.
I share my screen. This is another city-owned property discussion. And it's another property in partnership with someone. In this case, it's Carl Kaufman. For those of you who have been with us for a while, you probably remember some presentations by Mr. Kaufman in 2017. And that's when all this started, the land use permits and all that stuff. And after working with the state to get some of the buildings certified through their program,
It's like that.
and then working out some other stuff, they're finally getting the building permits through the process. And so there was one thing that we need to do as a landowner, and that's this covenant to bind properties. And that's because it's composed of 4 separate lots. So first of all, where are we at in the city? This is 6th Street Park. So of course, along 6th Street, here's West Street. If we continued going west, we would end up with the middle school. This is just the southern portion of Deer Island Road. So you have Zetterberg's and West Street Grocery there. So there's the site. And I'll talk about the covenant more on the last slide when we see the plan. But I just want to remind the council of what's going on. And then for our 2 new counselors, you may have seen this in the press, but it may be totally new news to you as well. So this is an 8-plex, so 8 dwelling units in 1 building, and it's a building composed of Connex boxes, or those metal shipping containers that you see. So that's the whole idea. So it's going to be the 8-plex and a parking lot, essentially. Now, one thing about this parking lot is from the very beginning, the idea was that it was going to serve the 8-plex itself, but also have a number of public spaces, since we do have a park, and sometimes on larger events, parking can be kind of a premium. And so that was the whole idea. So here's an aerial perspective just to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. Here's another rendering to give you further ideas. And then this side profile to give you an idea of scale. You can see that 2 stories, but still just under 20 feet in height. So let's look at the plan really quick. If you look at these light blue lines here, those are the 4 lots. And this development really kind of ignores those lot lines, which is fine. That's okay. But the building code doesn't like that. But the building code is okay with it when there's some type of legal mechanism that ties them together. And then from a land use standpoint, we have a parking lot on a couple of lots. This parking lot goes with this building. And then even this lot over here, even though there's not a lot of improvements on it, the whole area of these 4 lots is necessary for the 8-unit density. And so basically what this covenant is it says that these 4 lots shall be sold as a single unit until such time as the city releases or modifies the covenant. So something can happen in the future where we increase our density standards and all of a sudden, well, you don't need this last lot. You can untie that and build on it separately, stuff like that. This may not be something that happens for many years from now, but the benefit of the covenant is you still retain those 4 lots. The more aggressive approach would be to replat it, which is a whole land division process to get rid of the lines, means a surveyor, whole bunch of expenses and time that's not really necessary. So that's what the covenant is. That's what's before you tonight. I always like to explain these things that you don't see very often, so you're not at the regular session scratching your head going, what the heck is this? I did also want to point out, several years ago when this was being presented to you, the whole concept of including public parking was there, but we didn't have final plans yet, naturally. And the public parking is going to be this area that I kind of highlighted in green here. Which makes sense. It's the first handful of spaces, one of them being a disabled person's space. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how that's managed. But in any case, covenant to bind properties and a reminder of the 8-plex Connex box. This is city-owned property. It's a partnership with Kaufman. John, I think, has sent some updates to some of the legal agreements that were in place. Any questions?
A couple of weeks ago, Jacob, we had a thing about parking for duplexes. Does that get in this mess? We obviously have got some attached buildings here. How does that match that parking condition?
Yes, this is not a single family dwelling or a duplex. And so those state rules that are requiring us to relook at parking does not apply to this kind of development. And so no impact.
Okay, how many cars do we normally think goes to a residence? And do we have enough for that number, or do we just throw down a bunch of parking places and say, good?
Well, yeah, we just, we visit a psychic and they give us a number and then we make people do that. No, we have standards in our code, and for multi-dwelling development, which is 3 or more units, it's based on the size of the unit. So if it's a studio, it requires 1 space. If it's a 1-bedroom, it requires 1.5 spaces. And then if it's a 2-bedroom or larger, it requires 2. This does meet our minimum parking requirements, including, I'll zoom in there, some visitor parking, which is required as part of multi-dwelling developments. So this meets our standards.
So you've got 8 times 2 is 16 parking places for this development, plus the 6 for public parking, correct?
Let me look at the breakdown. It doesn't look like it's quite 16.
4, 5, 6, 7. It's 15. No, it's 13 because there's a ramp going up into the sidewalk. Probably for handicap. Yeah, it is a handicap.
Yeah, that's the wheelchair access ramp.
Yep. And then there'll be potential off-street parking parallel.
Oh, sure, yeah, or even diagonal. There's a large shoulder there, and so there's definitely opportunity for improved on-street parking as well.
Yes, yep. So we're actually adding instead of taking away.
There'll be some stuff like the mailbox here that you're not going to want to block, but there'll still be room for more on-street parking.
Parking on both sides of the street there.
One side, the fence is butted up to the other side. All right. Any other questions for Jacob? All right, Jacob, thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
All right, strategic action plan update.
I have no updates, Mayor.
Okay. City administrators report.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We're moving right along here. So I have kind of a random amount of things here. First, I wanted to talk about field reservations. We're getting a lot of requests to do field reservations, and I wanted to test the council's appetite for opening up. It's starting to take some of those reservations, and subject to the COVID guidelines and their commitment to their compliance with the COVID regulations, start allowing people to reserve things. So if there's
I know there's a request to reserve for disc golf. So I say yes. I mean,
shelters, anything with that, whatever we would reserve would have to be approved, and it would have to comply with the regulations. I know we talked last meeting about
I say yes too.
Strike policy.
I'm sitting outside as we speak because it's such a nice day.
Right. Is there a consensus among you? I mean, it seems it complies with the governor's orders.
Yep.
It seems like it's something we want to move forward with.
We can just do a head nod on this one, you guys. It's not like we're really.
Which way do we shake? Yes or no, or just bewildered?
Yeah, just shake yes, Councilor Topaz.
All right.
Thumbs up.
Direction received there. So on the waterfront projects, we have both. Mohammed talked earlier about the Riverwalk and the Streets projects, and they're both kicking off here early next month in April there, and really excited about that. There's a couple pieces to that I wanted to talk about with the technical advisory committees. For each project will have its own technical advisory committee. And internally, we've talked about, this is going to be a pretty high profile project with a lot of communication with counselors and updates at regular information as we know it and go along through the project. And having a technical advisory committee that would represent a core of essentially staff members, and then have an option to have up to 2 counselors kind of on a interest-based, rotation-based, if you have an interest, because as we move through the project, it changes. The things where the committee is considering changes. And if something comes up that we'll talk about the next agenda in council meeting, if there's up to 2 counselors that want to be a part of it, then you can figure that out, and for both projects, so you could rotate back and forth. And I just wanted to bring that as a strategy, and rather than having a counselor commit to the entire project and not be, it gets fairly technical. At some point, you may not hold people's interest. So.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds great.
Yes, I'm interested also.
I think everybody's interested. It's just like the details.
Yeah,
right?
I still think there ought to be a single counselor through the whole thing, whether the person changes. We're getting awful staff heavy, and sometimes the staff has a problem of interconnecting this project with everything else. And the shade should be a little different direction, and it isn't. And that seems to cause irritations, that we don't get a good interplay with flexibility.
The council is the ultimate policymaker and decision maker. Yes.
So yeah, we definitely know that. I mean, that's ultimately, I think staff's doing a wonderful job. moving this project along. I have 0 complaints.
We got a thin staff. We need, because of a lot of things, we need a few more people. So they're starting to get overworked there, Rick, in some places.
Well, that's
If you
what we
could
have.
give Ginny Dimshaw a few more hands and a couple more fingers, she could get grants out. I mean, the work she's doing, you almost want to take her off everything else just to do that.
Well, that's why we've hired OTAC and Mayor Reed, is to help us along with that aspect of the project. And
yeah,
we keep,
yeah.
they're, am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, some of the strategy is about being effective and efficient and by meeting the needs of the council as well.
So if you only have a couple of spots, 2 spots for city councilors, how do we decide who is to be a part of that?
So you have 2 committees, and the people, the technical advisory people are going to be myself, Jenny, Sue, Mohammed, and then Dan Carey with DSL has volunteered his time to be the part of the Riverwalk. And then the reason that we would want to limit it to 2 is that it becomes a public meeting after that, and there's advertisements, and it's.
And I got a good solution for that, Councilor Chilton.
Rock,
paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors.
That's 2 out of 3. It's going down.
We were suggesting a rotation or
I think a rotation would be good because it keeps everybody in the loop. And I know I have no problem because I can go in and ask if I have any questions of staff, and I get a good, sufficient answer from my questions. So I have no issues at all.
Yeah, that seems to be almost a better solution, Rick, to have this floating input as compared to a fixed input. The fixed input gives you a problem of when you get too many people. A floating input, whenever you walk in the door, you just one.
So here's what I'm going to recommend is that you guys just put it out, and the first 2 to respond get it. And then if it continues to be the first 2, then if you've had more than 2 in a row, that you need to rotate out to somebody else and let them in.
Yeah, we can even go as far to try to come up with an agenda for the project of advisory committee meetings. And then if you want to plug in your points of interest and work on it there. Yep. So.
I mean, we are the ultimate authority, like John said, so it's not, and public engagement is going to be key on this one.
So related to that project, moving on a little bit here, tonight's meeting, you're going to see a resolution for authorizing application to the Special Works Opportunity Fund. That's the state program, low interest loan. There's no amount with that quite yet because we haven't totally figured that out, but it's just authorization to proceed for the state funding and to have everything ticked and tied, buttoned up here to move forward. So at the next meeting, April 7th meeting, that's the meeting where there's been a lot of talk about the police, state, community, public. I wanted to say police station, but it's the public safety facility, obviously. There's a resolution on your radar for authorizing application to this, to creating a public safety fund. I'm sorry, I'm messing up here. And I wanted to be clear about what that was. So whenever we set up a fund, the fund needs to be created by a ordinance. The fund does not in itself, that ordinance doesn't by itself create a fee of any kind. The ordinance would have a component to it that it would have the ability to look in the future to levy some kind of fee if it's needed. And that's an important distinction. So creating the fund is something you would do anyway at some point in the project, whether it's getting a big grant or creating a new utility or to land a bond. The bond proceeds would land into that fund to manage the project. So just wanted to, in case there's confusion when you see that coming up, I wanted to point that out in advance. And I also want to talk about public forums. We're trying to get to a rhythm of the council on public forums, what you'd like to see. And that second Wednesday of each month on the April meeting is going to be a forum around the Central Waterfront and talking about an update of where we're at and opportunities around there. We're also working with a film crew to have a short documentary and hope to have that done by then, and paid for with some business organ funds. But, so if there's things you want to see in the future, anytime you council wants to bring them up, please, we need some time to prep for them and schedule them. And, I personally think that I would recommend that there be something about the funding of the public safety facility would be at an upcoming meeting, strategies, how we're going to do this, what it's going to look like.
I totally agree. I think that one needs to be like set for, I hate to push it that far out, but I don't feel as though Zoom would be appropriate. I think it needs to be an in-person type of, even if it's limited and you had to do a quick two cycle speech, the chief, maybe Councilor Chilton or myself, a little bit of you speaking, maybe Matt. And then if you had to do it all over again to if there was that big of a turnout, I think it needs to be in person. And I don't know if June is going to be a safe date or not, third week of June, but we should have a lot of vaccines by then.
I like that idea, Marshall.
Yeah, the thing about talking about it a little bit advanced is that what the legislature is working on with the cannabis tax increase, the legislature is right now looking at moving, well, actually they're looking at rating all of our marijuana to the city's allocation, but then giving cities the opportunity to increase their funds. And if one of the strategies was to allocate some local tax to fund a public safety facility, and those funds were dedicated to that project, that would be something that would need to be voter approved, and the voters would have an opportunity to weigh in on that. And if it was an acceptable method to the council as well. And that's in the works right now. It looks promising. It's likely going to happen to solve some of the budget woes of the state, but it's not a sure thing yet. So I wanted to plant that seed. It's a little, the soil's not quite warm enough for that to germinate quite yet, but it's something we may want to be thinking about. And actually, internally, we looked at what cannabis revenues might do to a project like this. If city allocated its revenues towards a public safety facility, it has the ability to pay for a very large portion of a facility like this, if those proceeds were dedicated to it. So take the burden off to the city, ratepayers, that kind of thing, placed on a third party. So no decisions on that, something to think about. Been some interest in the waterfront with developers, and thank you, Councilor Chilton, for coming out and spending a few hours to go through the city's plans and walk the site and see what's been a long process in the making and a lot of public input. And, it's all starting to come to life here. We're working with St. Helens Main Street with their MOU, and they're getting some branding going. They've had some input and dialogue back and forth on that. That seems to be positive and well received.
John, when is that next meeting?
They are fourth Tuesday, I believe, is the meetings.
Fourth Tuesday? Okay. Yeah. So next Tuesday or this Tuesday? Yeah, this Tuesday. We're in the third Wednesday, so it's got to be.
It's either the fourth or the last time. I'll double check on that.
Okay.
You're
yeah.
One of the things we're closely monitoring is the American Recovery Act allocations. There was a large 4.2 billion to the state, and the city is going to be receiving a sizable amount of funding with pretty limited restrictions. Water, sewer, wastewater, there's some other priorities. The guidance hasn't been issued yet on that, so we're taking a close look at what that means. And really, this could be a real opportunity to look at our strategic action plan, look at our established priorities, and advance a lot of projects that the funds are going to be split into over 2 years, and just move some things forward that have a good return on investment. So, I mentioned earlier that the Travel Oregon has a grant fund out right now, and we had submitted earlier for a shuttle boat to help the island and the traffic over there because it's pretty congested, and to support that effort as we're in a public-private partnership with the campground, and we get a portion of that revenue comes back to the city. And we were unsuccessful the first time, but we may take another run at trying to secure a shuttle boat to the Sandcastle Festival and the camping. And 4th of July is there's been a lot of interest in 4th of July. We're looking at the governor's regulations, and today seems a little challenging with we're still in a high risk category of maximum 75 people, and hopefully that will lower, be more opportunity for people to gather, but by the 4th of July. But we've talked with the fireworks people. We've reserved a soft hold on entertainment, and really just kind of a wait and see pattern.
And I also, John, I just want to let people know that I've been in the talks with a lot of the old committee, and they're willing to sit down and talk about what it takes. So we're not just dumping this on whoever takes this over from the city in the future. And yeah, so I just wanted to, if anybody would like to be involved, is watching and is curious, they can get a hold of me, either my phone or email or the city administrator. And we will include you in that meeting, and probably even do a little media outlet, letting you know what it takes to make those things work. A lot of work involved.
Okay, on just some brief legislative updates. There's a few things that we're working to support and other things we're looking to oppose. And I mentioned some of them last meeting about challenges to system development charges that are, from the city's perspective, are things we already do and are completely unnecessary and would just add cost to housing. So we the League of Oregon Cities is opposing that. We've supported that with our logo, and we do support that they do the study of the charges as they relate to affordable housing. Though there's a component of it. It's the legislation isn't all bad. There's a piece of it about SDCs, how it ties to affordable housing that we're not in opposition to. So in addition to the American Recovery Act, there's a lot of federal discussion about infrastructure, and our staff, Government Affairs Rachel Berry was invited to be a part of the National League of Cities through the League of Oregon Cities and through Bonamici's office, Congresswoman Bonamici's office, to basically have an infrastructure conversation with the federal delegation. So it was part of a federal delegation, and so their priorities focused on water, wastewater, surface transportation, and broadband systems. So that's all things that are apropos to our interests here. So it's going very well. It's St. Helens, that's a voice in DC is kind of it's great. So locally, our South County coordination meetings, we're meeting this week with Jay Pudwell, ODOT Regional Solutions Liaison, to talk about Highway 30 visioning, the corridor improvements over the next 20 years. I know there's been a high interest in grade separation, high interest in moving the switching yard out of the city, and they want to capture that and work on it. So, and additionally, the Northwest Act, the area-wide Commission on Transportation, we've been working with the county on their transportation priorities and getting those projects into strategic work plans, because if the projects aren't in a adopted strategic work plan, your likelihood of getting federal funding is really low. So, and there was surprisingly few projects in the county's plan. So we're working on that. So, and I think that concludes my report. unless there's questions.
Okay, I think I might be lagging a little bit. Here.
You are
Am I?
frozen. You're
Yes,
frozen
you are,
on the
Mary.
screen. Yep.
We hear you, I don't see you moving.
Okay,
Move.
so any questions for John?
John, on the
So I'm gonna
Roof.
propose.
Councilor Topaz had a question, a comment.
Yeah, on the Route 30 rail yard, any discussions about going over the top of the
Yeah,
railroad?
I heard that.
We haven't had the meeting yet, so
Is that even going to be on the agenda, or do you have any feeling
well,
for how wide a view they're going to throw on this?
yeah, the grade, an overpass would be a grade separation. You're separating the grade of the rail from the street, whether that went over or under, or, they didn't conflict with each other. That's been something that's been on our longer range plans for a long time, so. I think does that answer your question?
Hey, can you
Well, I was just
hear
wondering
me?
if they had a category for things like that or not, or it was just strictly roadway.
So there's a rail corridor study that's going right now that there's ODOT Rail and ODOT Transportation running parallel there. And we're a party to that report that we contributed some funding to it a while ago. It's not complete, but it's the interest. It's interest in a overpass grade separation has been shared.
Because that would help both Scappoose and us to have that discussion.
That it would.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can see you
Okay.
moving too.
All right, yeah, I'm walking with my computer. I got this, I'm mobile now. So I'm gonna propose that we're gonna go into executive session ORS 192-660, but I'm gonna.
Can I bring up a question first, Rick, before we having to do with the financing business?
You can tonight because we are going to try to make Merkley's town hall meeting, which was a request by Council Berkeley. So I'm going to propose we take our 10-minute break now. You can bring it up tonight, Councilor Topaz. You have every opportunity.
Fortunately, tonight, most of the people aren't there when we get to make our comments. That's the real problem.
Okay, so what I'm gonna make a motion that we're gonna adjourn. We're gonna take a 10-minute break and then go into our ORS 192-6602 or 660 E and H. So let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and then we will be going into executive session. Councilor Berkeley, that was right, correct? You want to try to make that town hall?
Thank you. I was gonna, yeah,
Yep.
I hope we can. Thank you.
Yeah.